Hello, I'm your friend Dylan, and hunting for trophy fish is a lot of cast and little chill. I gotta give credit to that joke to Grape Nut on YouTube, who stated that they 100%ed cast and chill, the game I'll be talking about today, and said that it was not chill. And to a point, when you're looking for fish in this game, that could be very much true. But before we get too deep into that, hello, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the show. Welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games, and today I am going to be talking about cast and chill. We have had quite the snowstorm here in Ohio, and it has been a time in which we have been locked inside, and this one has been a perfect accompaniment? Yeah, that word. A great companion for that kind of inside chill, not doing a whole lot, and a kind of long burn. A game that gets you to kind of slow down, be present, and be here. But we'll get into it. But before we do that, of course, as always, like to start the show with a game for your wish list, a game to think about playing, a game to anticipate. I have one for you today, and it's one I just actually recently discovered this morning, thanks to internet pal Cater Blossom over from No Small Games. She posted about Olivia Haynes, who is not only like an artist, but a person that is developing a game called Surf Club. So I gave Olivia a follow on Instagram. She goes by Liv Haynes, so like LIVHNS, and her style is right up my alley. It's very I'm blanking on that game. Hang on. There we go. A small break for you, a longer break for me. Queer man peering into a rock pool. Very like vaporwave, pink, blue. Also very like Barbie look to it. A lot of pinks, a lot of purples, a lot of blues. Very beachy. And it's an aesthetic that's like right up my alley. And the game looks to be like a kind of 3D rendered, like PS1 chunky pixely kind of vibe to it. Barbie meets like 90s, it all kind of ties in. Here's the Steam description of Surf Club, though. It says, Surf Club is an adventure game about a young woman named Holly who returns to her hometown in hope of rekindling an old relationship. And being that this person, Olivia Haynes, as an artist, seems to be like multimedia, the trailer itself for the game has not only the like video game rendered areas in which you see some gameplay of like not only surfing happening, which looks really fun and cool, but kind of walking around video stores and the beach and doing various activities. It also has what looks like either claymation rendered on computer or in real life, or both, and that mixed with like real life footage too. So I'm hoping that this game is also as like multimedia and artistic as this person seems to be. The game release date says to be announced, so it should be like a while out yet, I would assume, but one that you could put on your wish list and anticipate. Again, that's Surf Club, and by Olivia Haynes and published by Dinko. So Dinko Game is another place you could follow and get some updates, but just looks cool. The vibes are, again, really what I like. I like bright pastel-y colors, and I like this kind of sun-soaked, like positive vibes that can also hide some like some pain and some real things. So yeah, give that a look. And again, I think the last point I wanted to make was that she'd already been working on it for about 5 years, so it could be close. And it seems like a lot of it is kind of surfacing on the internet, so maybe that means that it's closer, but no inside information here. Just curious about it. Check out the trailer for Surf Club and check it out on Steam. Give it a wish list to help it out, and that will certainly move it forward. Again, that's Surf Club, to be announced when that's coming out. When I come back, I'm going to talk about Cast and Chill. See you in a couple. All right, Cast and Chill, that is currently idling on my Steam Deck as we do the episode here. It's a great, idle, beautiful looking fishing game that really fit into my life this week, as we had a very cold and snowy storm within Northeast Ohio and a lot of the Midwest. And I am an educator, so I had some time off, and I took the time to kind of, I kind of forgot about this game. I know it came out last summer, and looking at it, I was instantly was like, yes, this looks amazing. Wasn't quite sure about gameplay, but knew that I would find the right place for it, and this was definitely the time. Going into it, I thought about how we were going to be stuck inside, and this game provides a lot of nature and visual variety through its really, really stunning pixel art. And not only that, but the pace of the game seemed to fit the pace of our lives, where everything really slowed down. We weren't going anywhere, and we were just kind of hanging out inside. So, and shout out again to Cater Blossom. I had seen when she started playing this game, like I think a couple months ago, posting about having some coffee and letting this roll on the Steam Deck. And I kind of stole that vibe for a little bit and was doing that in the morning. I would have my breakfast and I would just boot up the game. And it's so awesome that like you can set you can have different idle settings for the game. And I'll talk about that here shortly. But for me, I had it set for like after 30 seconds of not playing it, it would just start playing. And then it kind of becomes like your own little peace and serenity movie that is playing on your gaming console of choice. I was kind of shooting myself in the foot that I didn't get it for PlayStation because we have the big TV in the living room, and I thought it would be really cool to have that just kind of play and have the kind of distant banjo happening anytime an achievement happened. But it is just very quiet, calm, where you're out fishing, getting the thing that a lot of fishermen, I think, seek in general is that kind of peace, that calm, that quiet, just sitting on the water, and all you hear is maybe some nature sounds. You hear the water shuffle when the fish go by your boat, and you hear the sounds of your rod. So that's been cool to just kind of let it play. And what's really nice is at any point you can just hop right back in. You don't have to like undo the idle mode. You just grab the controller again and then continue. You could be in the middle of catching a fish, and then you can decide to be the one that reels it in. And while I'm talking about, either full control or idle mode and the kind of seamlessness between them, I do want to talk about the idle settings, which is really interesting to me. So I think a lot of people that play this game are going to navigate that early and think about what they want out of the game. I could see some folks not wanting to let the idleness catch any fish. Like they want to be the ones that catch all of them and be the one that completes the game. And then I really think the tiers that I'm going to talk about now of the idle settings really kind of help you hone in on like what you want out of the game. So there's one tier that like slides it in one direction that says like you can let the fisherman or your fisherman catch and sell like everything. So anything that is available, they will switch to the bobber or the lure that you have unlocked and available, and they will catch as much as possible and then sell them. And there's one that I ended up choosing that said you don't want it to catch any of the trophy fish. So each fish has a category of size dependent on the type of fish that they are. So some fish come in all sizes, small, medium, large, and double X. Some come in only small and medium. Some are come in medium and large. It, again, depends on the type of fish that it is. And the trophy is like the biggest version of that fish. So the biggest catch. And that to me that seemed like something I wanted to hunt on my own and not let the game just automatically get. So that's kind of where I landed, to where I am the one that goes kind of hunting for those fish, those biggest catch, and seeing where I can find them, and then getting excited and doing a little fist pump every time I was able to obtain one of the trophy fish. There's another one that says no achievement fish. So like I think it won't catch anything bigger than you have already caught. So if you're playing and it says like, like you've only caught small and there's like a medium and large, I think it won't give you your like next biggest catch. And then like there is one that says just a screensaver. So it won't, I don't think it'll catch or sell anything, but it just maybe the guy floating around and like casting. So you get the vibes, but it won't progress without you. So automatically right there, the game is communicating to you, the player, that like you could use this in a variety of ways. And I think this game is a really great like work from home companion. If you unlike my like very unique situation this week, I think this game is on PC especially, like you can have it just be in a window and happening. I picked it up on PC and Steam Deck, so laying my Steam Deck on the coffee table was a great way for it to just kind of happen and catch fish as I went. But like you could have it just kind of open, and like I said, the seamlessness of getting in and out of the game to where you're choosing whether or not to like start catching and playing. Like I could see somebody like at work from home being like doing their work, and then when they are ready to jump back in, they're jumping back in and catching and then getting back to work and so on. Or you could let the game kind of play for you. And like any good idle game, a game that runs idle and does the kind of work for you, you can let it work, but like you're not going to catch any of the bigger fish if you haven't purchased or unlocked any of the rods. So like then your role becomes the sort of manager of equipment, right? So you get the faster boat if you want, you get the lines and the strength of rod that can handle the bigger fish, and then let your character go out and do it. Which being, I think like I've collectively, I don't know how much I've hands-on played, but I've let it play for almost like 20 hours. And that's like letting it sit for a while, walking away from it, or having it next to me and letting it play. It's a really interesting conversation that I kind of want to get into for discussion question as well, is like, and I'll get into it more later, but my thoughts are like what do we value in regards to an idle game that kind of sits and we let it do the work for us, but still feel that sense of progression. I still feel ownership of the character that is catching fish for me, even though I'm not the one catching fish. So it has a lot to offer here. And it's certainly interesting. Like I wonder now, having played and letting it idle, like if I would ever be a person that would want to, and I think the answer to this question is no, but maybe I would want to not have any sort of idle at all and like see if I could catch all the fish, which again is not chill. That would be very tedious, I think, and would take quite a while. But for someone that really values and wants a fishing game, that's the other thing with this game, is like it was way better physically than I ever expected. I think it's pitched as like, again, cast and chill is really pitched as an idle game, and I think it does play that role, but it is also a really good fishing game. The physicality of it is great. The equipment purchasing and the detail of all of that is like not only really great and like has different tiers of things, but it's also like super legible to someone that isn't really into fishing at all, to be honest, and easy to understand in a video game sense, like what to unlock and what gets better and what gives you more opportunity, and so on. But yeah, it really like invites you to sit, it invites you to stay and to slow down, and that again completely matched the pace and the demand of my week, where all I had to do was be inside and just kind of stay safe and stay warm, and it was a really good companion for that. You get to pick a dog right away, So I chose the Saint Bernard, I think. Yes, looked that up and I did get that right. I chose the Saint Bernard. I don't have one. I just thought that style of dog is cool, and just to have you have a little companion, a little buddy that you gets in your boat and goes out with you. Pretty sure the dog barks or like gives you a sort of hint and warning of like where a lot of fish are, or particular fish that you might be looking for. You go out on the lake or river and they will bark and will look over the edge of the boat and down toward the water. So I've taken it as a hint at like, oh, I should look there. And usually it's either really populated or it's got the fish in particular that I'm looking for. As a setting, though, if you want to turn the dog barking off, I know some dogs in players' homes are really sensitive to that, or you just don't want to hear it. You can turn it off, and that's no problem there. I didn't really mention this earlier, but like I want to say too that this game is a really wonderful palate cleanse as well. I've been going really hard on Angeline Era, and I had been playing Octopath Traveler a bit, kind of pecking at that slowly, and like a lot of games that are fairly intense, or Pokemon, just like things that have a lot to work for, and I think I needed something that like wasn't as demanding, and this was a good one for that. Like this one hit in the way that takes the pressure off. You kind of you kind of self-motivate with this game. Like I said, there are a variety of idle settings with this one, so you kind of decide how much involvement you want to have. So in regards to like sitting, staying, and slowing down, I haven't talked about it yet, but the most obvious like pull to this game is the pixel art. The scenery is so beautiful that you don't want to move. I like could feel the moment like almost slipping away, and it's a depiction of nature in which the day and the time of day like slowly changes, and right from the start they throw you into this like beautiful sunset with like a moon slowly rising with some twinkly stars in the background, set to like pinks and purple skies with this like warm orange light that is hitting the right side of all the trees and hills, like, and that serenity was so capturing right away that I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Like I even showed images to my wife that was like, that is one of the most beautiful looking games that we have seen, especially in regards to pixel art. Like the way that they layer each of the kind of assets to provide depth in it is really awesome. Like you'll have mountains and hills kind of layered. Some are close, some are like little hills or like rocks that are coming out of the water. And I'm just so I haven't seen anything close to this since Keep Driving was pretty close in regards to pixel art. It has a very similar style, I think, but man, like I want to know how. I even looked up like how'd this game get made. I want to see, but I didn't really find any like development logs or anything that showed what's going on with the artwork. But yeah, it's of high appreciation. And I think one thing I wrote down that was really impressive was that with the nature, it's incredible and impressive that like there are maybe like 10 locations in the game. Like there's a few locations and then there's like different spots in that location. So one lake might have like 3 spots that you could fish at. But each one of the locations, like every time you go to it, it could look different because of the fact that like the time of day will paint the picture a different color in a different way. So like I booted up the area that I'm looking at right now, in which is like a very like sea and sky. There is some like hills and trees. And when I booted it up, like you see like a bunch of like night glow, like the surrounding the kind of hills is like that moonlight that is very bright, and you see that like on the edge of the water and reflected in the water, and then even like around the clouds, which are like dark navy blue and colorful. And then now it is like a sort of like slow sunrise, I think, where there's a lot of like oranges and pinks and purples in the clouds, and the fade from one color to another just really captures like the most beautiful parts of nature in this pixel art game. And I think the biggest flex of it is that at any point at any of the levels, you can change the time of day and it will do a time lapse. And then you see not only the movement of the clouds and like maybe a little bit of like wind blowing, and the colors change, and the amount of like either individual layers that they had to create to make each of these settings and colors to come through on this game is like probably a ton of work, and like just so impressive. Like I want to know how they did it. I'm really curious, because every time I look at it, I'm blown away. Like I think that's the biggest. Not only is it a good fishing game, but like looking at it just kind of takes your breath away and brings you this sense of peace and like disbelief that you're looking at something that beautiful in the pixel art world. One additional note that I have on settings too is that you can adjust the haptics, and I know that on Steam Deck haptics aren't a crazy thing. It doesn't happen a whole lot. I turned them all the way up on Steam Deck, and I noted that it probably feels great on PS5, and I got the chance to play it on PC. And when I did, like the haptics were crazy on the PS5 controller, like really sensitive to the rod flick and the reel and the catching of the fish and feeling like their movement. Really impressive on like a PS5 controller. So highly recommend that experience. I thought this game came out on PS5. I thought I saw it listed at PS5. Maybe it intends to. I looked it up on the PlayStation Store and I didn't see Cast and Chill there. So apologies to friends that I've reached out to and said, hey, yeah, check it out on PS5. I don't think it's on PS5 yet. I would love for it to be. But yeah, again, the screensaverness of it and but again, haptics feels really good there. And again, a note to the physicality of this game that I did not expect to enjoy so much and experience. That part of it as well was impressive. Let's talk about sound for a little bit too. I kind of mentioned earlier the distant banjo that you'll hear anytime you catch a fish or something, some sort of achievement happens. It sounds like the banjo is being played in these places, like where it just echoes over the hills and is broadcasted like way out. It's very like mountainous, like alone with my banjo. And I love that it's not like, there's no music that plays when you're like reeling in a giant fish, or fighting one. Like it's not like in a typical fishing game or any sort of video game where you have this like fast paced, like, get your heart racing kind of thing. It just lets you do it. And it's just a little commentary, the banjo. It just kind of plunks and plays when you do something cool. And again, that echoiness like helps that sense of environment. And again, really curious of how they pulled that off. I'm sure they had to record in maybe some of these locations or that they're rendering to get that feel. But the certain levels you'll hear like crashing of waves that are next to the shoreline. You'll hear different birds and nature kind of calling out an echo. Like they had to have captured it from nature. It's not very video gamey sounding. It's like purely nature sounding, and that certainly helps sell it. And I think with the gameplay, I think the sound is really important for your reel and your line. So especially when you're fighting like a big fish. So you could be trying to catch like something big that will fight you a lot, and it will swim across the bottom of the like under your boat essentially. So that's one thing I hadn't really mentioned is like when you cast, you get to see under the boat. Like you're only looking at your boat and above like the sky and all that until you cast out, and then you cast out and then the camera pans underneath the surface of the water so you can see the fish. So you get the advantage of like looking at the fish that are nibbling at your lure, and trying to get specific ones. So it's not truly like fishing where you're just casting out and hoping that you end up with the one you're looking for. That kind of video gamey part of it, I am very okay with. But I was talking about the sound of the line. I like that the reeling sounds are great. They sound really accurate when you're reeling things in and when you're casting out. But when you're fighting, your reel will sound like it is tugging way too fast when the fish is like either swimming away or fighting. And not only does the sound communicate that, but the fish will start to like swim really quickly, and you'll see little bubbles kind of form behind them. And that's a way to like a communication of like let off the reeling in. You kind of got to let that fish run for a second before you start tugging again, because I don't think your line ever breaks, and you don't have to fix that necessarily. It doesn't punish you in that way, but the fish will let go, or you'll stop your reeling in if you like fight too hard against it. And you learn that once, and then you're like, okay, I get what it's trying to say. So there's not a whole lot of tutorial with that, which I really love, actually. Like, it kind of has a sort of like need to know basis with the fishing part of it. And while I can't stand the idea of like holding a fish or taking one off of a hook now, like I am not that person. I did a lot of it when I was younger. I think I was fascinated with it when I was younger and had done some of it. And this game kind of pulled some of that out of me, which is interesting. And yeah, the sort of like nuance that you have to have when you are fighting a fish that is like bigger, you have to know when to pull and know when to let go. So usually like pulling as they're swimming away from your boat is like discouraged, because it will make your reel start to sound like it's going to break. And then they'll oftentimes be swimming faster. But like if they're swimming fast toward the boat, you can like pull in, and it's just really start to like, they do a great job of like the realism of that. Like if you're tugging too hard when a fish is pulling away, your line is more likely to break, or that you won't pull them in. But like you then want to take advantage of when they are swimming towards your boat and like pull harder so that they kind of come up. But a lot of times when they're fighting you, they will swim back and forth past the boat until you either tire them out or kind of win the fight and pull them up. And then at that point, you hope that it is a trophy catch or something that you haven't caught before, or the biggest one that you've caught, So again, big left-handed fist pump every time I pulled in a trophy. And while I'm thinking about it, like that's the one thing that has kind of soured me away from the game, is the kind of trophy hunt. And it definitely asks a lot of patience of you, because so like each location has 5 different fish that you are fishing for. Each of those fish have different sizes, and then each of those fish have the biggest trophy size, like I mentioned before. And with the idle settings, like that seemed to be like what I wanted to do the most of in regards to hands-on. But with that, like, you don't automatically find the biggest fish all the time, and you start to, or at least I did, you start to recognize like the game's algorithm and like it wanting you to play for a long time. So it's not a given that giant XXL fish that is like king salmon is going to show up at the bottom of that lake that you are at. And sometimes those types of fish could be in the same lake or sea, but at a different fishing location. And you may cast out and let your line drop to the bottom and look for it, and then it's not there, or you think that the one is a double X, but it's actually an XL. And it's interesting. It's something that it seems to like want to like for lack of a better term, lure you into playing, pun intended, more of the game. And that can be a little frustrating, especially when you kind of want to just like check it off. But like, I say that in a very like video gamey way of like, just let me have it. But I also like that it is a rarity. Like you won't, as a fisherman, just go out and catch the biggest fish because you want to. You hope to find it, and like when you do, it's exciting. And you may go out a few times and still not see that giant one that you're looking for, and that is true of like fishing culture. So I want to say that there, with myself aside of just wanting to do it, that is a part of the game. And I think another frustrating and kind of obvious part to me about the algorithm is like, I would have like a certain line, a certain rod and a certain lure that was, maybe on the smaller side, fishing for a certain fish. And then all of a sudden you see that like big one. And then you're like, I got to get, so you reel in and get the other, it's almost like as if it knows you're not fishing for it, then it will show up. And really, this is a question of patience. And some folks have a lot of it. I think I have a lot of patience, but sometimes with video games, I'm just like, please just let me do the thing. So in that regard, I have not been patient, and that can happen. But it's funny, like I wrote down a couple times, like it felt like the sometimes like you could only get like one trophy fish per outing on the lake, and then there would be times where I go out and get 3 of them. And it does start to feel like when you're not hunting it and just letting the lake come to you, or letting the fish come to you, then you seem to progress a little bit more naturally than like saying, I'm going to go find that one fish. I'm going to make sure I have the right rod and the right lure, and I'm going to fish for it. And then it's not there and I'm mad about it. So, in that way, like I'm letting the idling do all of the other work, right? Like it's catching all the different sizes of fish, but it will not catch the trophy fish. So when I've left myself with only trophy fish hunting, then that makes me like frustrated where I can't find all of them. But, if I were to, restart the game or do a run or like a playthrough where I'm the only one catching the fish, then it might be exciting to catch a medium, a small, a large, and like get all of them and like fill it out on your own. But that would take a lot of time and commitment and kind of tedious tinkering. And while I said the word tedious, I'm going to transition into a tedious setting that they had recently come out with, but I think it's really for the sickos and the folks that really enjoy the game and enjoy fishing. There is like a winter update that they came out with, and the winter setting is really, again, like stunning. Every level is not disappointing. Like it's so amazing what this game looks like. But there is a winter setting that you don't go out on a boat, but instead a snowmobile with your dog, and you do ice fishing. So you drill a hole in the lake and you drop your line in. And that one is a big test of patience. And I haven't mentioned the kind of fella at the dock, Rusty, who you talk to and buy your bait from, or not your bait, you buy your lures from, and you buy your boats from, and you buy your rods from. He's great, and he'll give you various tips that you can, donate a little bit of money to his jar. There'll be like an exclamation point above the jar indicating like he has something to tell you. And he'll give you advice, which is really cool. And it's very like fisherman to fisherman talk, which again captures that captures the culture of this setting and practice, but also like helps you out and points you in a direction if you feel maybe a little lost, or just like want to know something. And like a lot of times I'd talk to him and he would say like, oh, you're looking for like that one, like head out to this part of the river. And then because you talk to him, you unlock like a different part of the river where that fish you've been looking for might be located. Then you go there, and sure enough, that fish is towards the bottom of the river, and you pull one up, and that feels really cool. I do like that part of it. But my original point with that, with the kind of tip from Rusty, is that and this, I don't think this was a tip, but it was more like when you just unlock the winter area from him, then he'll tell you a little bit about it. And he had said that the fish move as slow. They're plentiful, and there's like a lot of different species there. I think double or almost triple the amount. I think there's 10 at least, maybe 15 that are in that like ice pond. But he said they move as slow as molasses, and you have to wait. So the hardest part with that ice fishing is you drop your line straight down, and you can't just like continue to cast to get your lure in the location that's closest to that big fish. So you have to like stop, you have to drill a new hole, you have to drop your line in there and hope that that fish will like come by your lure or be interested in it at all. And the behavior of the fish themselves are like really interesting too. It's like they are, I feel, well researched. Like their behavior patterns and the way that they swim, the way that they go about, and like where they're located in the water, I think is like well known. Obviously, having to fit into a video game, I'm sure there's slight adjustments for folks that have actually done this kind of fishing. But I like that like it was very obvious that some fish want to feel like a lure or their food essentially is like just waiting for them. So I noticed like if I moved a lure to some of the smaller fish that I'm thinking of in particular, like they would swim away or they would get spooked by it. But if I just kind of let it sit there, they would like nibble at it, which is again really realistic. Like you feel that little bit of haptic like nibble, and then like you feel the tug once they're in, and obviously you see it too. But like again, realism. And then there are other fish that like want a fight. Like if you leave your bobber like sitting there, they'll just swim right past it. But if you show and kind of play with your line a little bit and lure it or make it bounce, it makes the bait feel alive to those fish, and then they will come after it. So like again, it's like unlocking these things that like I know about fishing that I've practiced before when I was like in my early pre-teens to teens. Like it was wild how familiar I was with it, and how much I enjoyed kind of revisiting all of that as I casted and chilled. I like too that even with the idle nature of this game, which is just a full screen of like your fisherman boat, dog, and all of the scenery. I haven't really mentioned too, but like if you look at this game, like the scenery is the main character. Like you have your boat and fisherman that is like maybe a 24th of the screen, and the rest of it is just nature swallowing you in the most beautiful way. Even when you're playing though, there's like no HUD. There's nothing that has like any sort of meter or button or any video gamey component. At the very most, like even in idle mode, there's this like little clock that is in the upper right corner that's kind of faded, almost like a watermark, to where you can't even see it. So that part's wonderful. I mean, the navigation of the little booklet that you have, I haven't talked about this a whole lot, but there's like a log book essentially that has where all of your fish are, and shows you like all the different types and all the different sizes and like kind of like what you're hunting. That menu and like the menu in which you get your rod and lure is not bad, and they're all very minimal. But then like it all gets out of the way so that like you can just appreciate the nature of it. And any game that can do that, where you don't have to have like all of these buttons to tell you what to do or all of these meters that communicate, where like the game is intuitive enough for you to just be in it without any extra things on the screen, awesome. Like all for that. I wanted to also express like the other side of the coin with my like idle companion over here. My relationship with the game, I think I had talked about and speculated like, what if I caught all the fish? Like I'm kind of thankful that I am not. I think I would find that to be a bit painful, and I feel that I am like in collaboration of labor with my little pixelated fisherman, where he'll go out and get all the things that aren't trophies, and then when I come, I will lean more into like that trophy hunt and try to get some of the bigger ones. Like just kind of knowing what the game is, you know, early on in catching fish, it's great. Like you're just excited to catch all of them and see what's up. But once you get the hang of it, or if you start kind of catching a lot of repeats, like if you're catching a ton of like the same size small fish, or you're catching a bunch of mediums or larges, like you're just like, okay, I get what this is. And then you will trade those in for money, and then you're again trying for the bigger ones. So to me, it's like I've figured out my relationship to it, and that is like my hands-on wants to be that trophy hunt. And then but yeah, I'm curious, like if any of you end up playing this, like let me know what your path, like how you used it, and like what your priorities were with it. Like, was it your kind of idle background? Was it both? Were you completely hands-on? I'm curious. Let me know. So navigating the water and the kind of area that you're able to kind of go back and forth in is like really, really nice, like in regards to boat feel. You don't have to hold left or right. You can just like, especially with a boat motor, you can just hit right fully, and it will like go full gas with the motor until you tell it to stop. So it's basically like how a boat feels, like not moving and then slowly moving and fully on, and then slowing down, propeller off, and then you kind of like float to your destination and stop instead of halting at a stop. So again, a sense of realism there. And when you navigate, like there's no read of like what is in the water and where it is. Now, I haven't used the two biggest boats, and there's one that says it has all the bells and whistles. I don't know if it has like what do they call those? I'm going to say, like, is it like a sonar or some sort of like that underwater radar device that like lets you know where fish are? I'm curious. Like I haven't yet. So I want to try those boats and see if like it would let me know what's in there, or like what is under the water and what isn't. And I even like that Rusty, his description of the boats, like the big like fancy one says like all the bells and whistles, none of them necessary. And I'm just like, yeah, like you start with like a little cabin and an oar, and you just kind of paddle, and that's like super peaceful. And I kept that for a long time because I was like, I don't want to make extra noise with my boat motor. But then eventually when I started doing more of the trophy hunting, I was like, okay, let's get a faster boat and go back and forth. But again, haven't used the two biggest boats yet. I'm curious if that has any sort of radar or cheating system that will help you. But, just me trying to get to the end fast. But I did kind of notice and use like the environment as a visual indicator of fishing spots. So, I might remember that a certain tiger trout was like below the lighthouse. So I would take my boat to the lighthouse and cast from there. So you have like a ton of just natural visual indicators that are in the game that you just kind of use for yourself. You're like, oh, once I get to that river, or that waterfall, then I'll cast from there. Or all the way to the edge by the dock is where I'll hide and try to catch some of these fish. Like, it's you just kind of make those things up like you would in nature, and I think that's special. Ooh, another note on visual communication here. So sometimes when you're looking for a certain fish, like it can be very overwhelming when you cast into the water and look down and go, okay, which one is the tiger trout? Which one is that salmon I'm supposed to catch? Like if you look for them in the logbook and then you look back out of the logbook at the water. So you basically like hit the X button, or which is like the square button on your controller. It will flip to the logbook, and then you will look at a particular fish, and then you'll flip out of the logbook, and then it'll go back to your screen and show you like your lure underwater. But it will also show you and have where the fish will have like just a very light shine over them. So like if there are 7 of them, it will all happen at the same time. So it has this like glimmer of light that hits them in a very like natural way that is both like an awesome way of like video game communication, to where it's like, hey, these are the ones that you just looked at in your logbook, and these are the ones that you want to fish toward. Cool. But also, like, they're not like glowing yellow or have some sort of like blip, 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 like blinky light on them or an arrow on them. Like, again, getting rid of all of the video gamey stuff and just sticking with like the nature aesthetic is something that I really, really appreciate there, to where it wasn't so like, what's the word? Inauthentic in regards to like what this game is trying to pitch in regards to nature and fishing. One thing that really tested my patience too, and kind of gave me that like, yes, this is a video game, but kind of check, is that like you can't just use the biggest and best rod and lure. Like in any of these like idle games, there's like an incremental progression where you are unlocking, you know, in this case, you're unlocking certain bait, you are unlocking different rods and different boats, but like the biggest rod and the biggest lure isn't always best for every fish. Like there are certain types of fish where you can only catch small and mediums because that's the size that they are. So you can't have your XL and XXL rod with your XL and XXL lure. That's like too intimidating for them. That's like too big of food. They can't eat that. So like you have to have what it states for them in the logbook, you know, which is a smaller rod with an invisible line and a bobber. Like you have to change to all of that in order to catch certain types of fish. So that gives it a ton of variety. So where like you're not just casting your line and like expecting to catch everything. Like you have to adjust your rod, your line, and your lure for particular fish that you're trying to catch, which is nice because like, especially if you're, you know, the big kahuna that you can't seem to find as a trophy fish isn't arriving at the location that you're at, you can just fish for those smaller ones that are toward the top, or maybe like a medium size that is in the middle of the lake. Like it's all available for you there, and it gives it a nice variety, and it keeps you coming back and keeps you playing. So, I mean, in regards to fishing and its culture and its purpose, like what fishing does for fishermen and nature, like this game has a true understanding and deep understanding of both of those things. Like understands that fishermen want to go out and have peace, but also want to go after the big catch, but also know that like it takes patience and it takes the right gear. And then like the connection to nature and the way that they render nature in this game is, again, super stunning. The way that they work with light, the way that they work with texture, and it just captures something like truly special, and one that like, again, with the idle component, like I don't mind just like watching. Like I love to just have it on, and it becomes like this peaceful companion that offers like a beautiful, you know, screensaver that has this fella catching fish. And it's fascinating to look at the screen. And I, you know, as I've been recording, I've been letting it run on my Steam Deck, and like I've went from like warm oranges and pinks in the sky to now like dull blues and like kind of darker navies and purples around the clouds. And it's like the same location. Like, so it offers like hundreds of these different moments that give you a variety of weather and time of day that make it feel fresh every time you're in it, and kind of force that sense of presence. Like you kind of feel that fleeting moment. So you're very in it at that moment in time. And it's rare when a game can kind of capture that. And I think that's something to really celebrate here. And those are my thoughts on Cast and Chill. This game is $10, and if you own Dredge, it's actually a part of so I think it's actually like $11, but like if you own Dredge, it is a part of a like fishing bundle, where if you already own it on Steam, you can get the game for cheaper if you like buy the bundle. And then I was able to get it for like under $10, I think, or like 10, 12 at the most. So it definitely worth it. And then like just a game that I'm really happy to have. Curious of like what I'll do with it going forward. I almost feel like I'm leaning into like full idle, where I just kind of let it catch all the things and, work without me, and fill up the logbook, or do I like continue with the trophy hunting? I don't know. But I think that companion piece is like a bigger question here, is like, is it enough for you? Like, for me, I love that it progresses without me and like not having to do the work, which is kind of scary. And I think where a lot of the world is leaning on like a bigger umbrella topic, unfortunately, but like, with like AI and, stuff like that. But, I don't want to get into the weeds there, but I will say that like, it is odd how much more comforting it is to just let it be than it is for me to have the accountability of like fishing in it. So I've enjoyed both, but it's just almost like putting on like a soothing album, or a calming TV show. It's like having a game where, I can decide if I want to participate in it physically, or I can just let it play for me and comfort me with the beautiful aesthetic that is presented and the beautiful scenery, and just watch this guy fish. And how calming is that? So it's cool that it offers you like multiple levels of thinking about it and multiple levels of engagement, that you ultimately get to choose what you want yours to be. So yeah, again, that's Cast and Chill on Steam, and maybe on other things. I would check for yourself. I think it's on Switch. Really good Switch game, handheld, idle. Give it a rip if you're interested, of course. When I come back, I'm going to talk about some other stuff, and then we will conclude with our discussion question. Thank you for tuning in and listening, and I'll see you in a couple. Bye for now. Okay, and we're back for other stuff. So I got 3 today. 3 things to briefly talk about. And one is that, did you know, and I'm sure a lot of you did know, but I am new to this. I'm not new to the discovery. Like, I knew this was a thing, but I just like, until you do it yourself, you're like, wait, what am I doing? Video games can be taken out of your local library. My local library has a lot of Switch 1 games that I haven't played. Has a lot of PlayStation 4 and Xbox Series games. So like, not the like cutting edge of technology, but I think like maybe some of the bigger libraries might, depending on their funding. But it was really cool to take out a game from the library and give it a try, like especially a Nintendo game. Nintendo games, as you know, are $60 or more for the most part. And some of them, like, because of that, I steer away from, because I was like, Mario versus Donkey Kong, like, I'm not going to play that for $60. I tried the demo. I was like, not worth $60. But if the library is going to let me play it for free, yeah, I'll give it a try. So I picked up The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and while ultimately it was not for me, it was a very cool experience to be handed a video game with a receipt from the library that says, like, bring it back in a week. 1 game per library card, so that's fine for me because I like 1 game at a time. Most of the 1 to 3 games at a time is usually my jam. But yeah, like it was nice to have tried the game. I'm glad I didn't buy the game for $60 and then end up not liking it or forcing myself to like it because I paid for it. So it was cool to give it a try. I was really hoping for Mario versus Donkey Kong, and I know my library has it, but they didn't have it available when I was there. So hopefully next time I go, I'll pick that up and give it a try. But yeah, the library has video games, or at least, I mean, if my small town library does, I'm sure yours might too. So check into that. If you don't have a library card, go get a library card and reap the benefits of being able to take out a bunch of entertainment, not only books, DVDs, movies, and video games that, again, might be something you haven't played before. So give it a rip. Another thing is that I saw on Steam a little headline that said Demonschool has published a couple or posted a couple devlogs about their game and the decisions that they've made. So there are like 5 of them that I found on YouTube that are actually really short. They're like 2 to 3 minutes about just decisions they made with making it a school setting, decisions they made with the sounds and music, decisions they made with the like tactics-based gameplay that wasn't like other tactics-based games where you are having to click a bunch of times. They wanted to make clicking like as minimal as possible and make it very streamlined, and like that all comes through on the game. And it was one of my favorite games I played last year, and it's cool to hear why. It's almost like things you know about the game, but to hear them say like, we were thinking of this, is cool. So yeah, Demonschool devlogs, check those out on YouTube. And last thing in the other stuff section is my friends and I, I've talked about on the show before, have like a standing game night. Every Tuesday night we get together and try to play some video games, and we have really, I mean, the Helldivers has been like our number one, just because it's like a game that all 3 of us can play and enjoy. I've gotten them into Stardew Valley, but recently we have dipped into Vampire Survivors multiplayer, and that has been a blast. We all restarted like a new save, which is, I think, the good move on PlayStation 5. So we all picked it up on PlayStation 5 because that's what we all have, and we're able to play together there. So we get on our Discord there, we chat, and it's very streamlined in that way. And what I really like about multiplayer now, because I remember we played, the same 3 people played couch co-op Vampire Survivors when it came out, and it wasn't as fun because early on, like we tried it, and I think I got it for Switch actually, so we could all play. Yes, I have Vampire Survivors on like, I think it's like 3 consoles at this point, but with $5, so be it. But we played couch co-op, and I think our biggest hang up with it then was, especially restarting, was that you'd play as 3 people, but every time an upgrade happened, it would like circle through the 3 people. So like the first time I would get an upgrade, then my friend would get an upgrade, then my other friend would get an upgrade, and then it would be back to me. And then it was like too slow to really progress or be powerful. And I think now that the game has had some time to be out, a ton of success, a bunch of DLC, now they're like every time you get a chest, or anytime that your leveling all works together instead of individually. So like, or well, it didn't work individually last time. All of your leveling works simultaneously. So like when you get an upgrade, all 3 people get an upgrade. So the screen pops up and it's like it's your turn to pick your upgrade. So you will look through your list of 3, and your friends can actually like click on one to make a suggestion, and then their character icon will show up and be like, he thinks you should get knives this time, or he thinks you should get lightning. And obviously we're talking to each other at the same time too, and we've been pretty respectful to each other's time in regards to or not time, but respectful to each other's choices, and we just lead with fun. Whatever sounds fun, get that upgrade. And I mean, the third run we did, or second run or third run, like we got to the end, and like I love that they're letting you kind of break the game already. Like with that, like I thought it would be kind of like a slow, sludgy grind again to restart, which I was willing to do with my friends, but it's cool that it didn't. It was just like, no, like as long as you know the decisions to make, and like, and not that there's right ones, but like you can feel like when you're having a good run or when you're not. I just like that they're letting people play with it now. Like they're letting you progress and unlock and get to the end. And the only thing I didn't love is like whoever is the host is the person, which I think I understand why, but like whoever is the host of your online like lobby, their upgrades, like they're bigger like roguelite upgrades in regards to like health revive and armor and things like that. Like those exist for everyone based on what that host has. So I hosted for a while and got a ton of upgrades, but like they couldn't upgrade theirs. But like if they host, then they can use their upgrades, and then we will all feel the benefits from that. So again, it didn't take long. We've done 2 sessions and played like I think maybe 5 hours of it, and we're getting all the levels unlocked, and you know it's been a fun time. And it gets like wild and crazy to the point where we're chuckling at sitting still while all of our weapons are just like causing chaos and keeping people away from us. So yeah, good times with that. Vampire Survivors multiplayer. If you're looking for something to play with friends, it's an easy one. It's very accessible to the point where my wife hopped on for a little bit and played with friends. So yeah, that's that. But I will conclude with a discussion question here. So I guess what I'm really curious about is like idle games for you, and we can have this kind of conversation around cast and chill or just like idle games in general. But like, how do you feel about like idle game progression? Like, is it enough for you, especially in games that like essentially play for you, or you have to leave alone for a while? Like, does that feel good for you, or are you a person that needs more of a hands-on experience? I'm curious. Like for me, I really like the sense of progression in any sort of way. Like I like to feel like I am progressing or owning that sort of progression, even if I am not directly tied to it. So that's me, but I'm curious of what you all feel like. If you've played idle games or played games that are incremental, in which you have to step away and then it's progressing without you, but then when you come back, you're managing your upgrades and your efficiency. Like, how do you feel about all that? I know that's an open-ended question, but open-ended answers welcome. So if you'd like to answer or chat with me, you can reach out at Your Friend Who Likes Games on Instagram or Blue Sky, or you can comment on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you are listening to this show. Those are the two places it's available. So if you've made it this far, then you're already using one of those. So cheers to that. And thanks as always for listening to the show and engaging. I appreciate you all for checking it out and giving it a chance and making it a part of your podcast loop. I know there are a lot of them out there, so thanks for choosing this one today or whenever you are listening to it. So cheers and thank you. That's going to be it for this episode on Cast and Chill, and we will see you next time with another game to talk about. Bye. See you then. Thanks. Okay, see you later. I'm leaving now. Bye.